Good evening. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hope Shot. Tonight, we have Addiction to Success, where Roy has come on here to share his story with us. Man, I'm super excited to hear Roy's story. I've heard it before, but guess what, man? When you share stories, it's always ever evolving, it's always changing. And it's really cool. And as you grow through recovery, it's always getting better. You're going through different experiences, and like you have new eyes on recovery, and it's pretty cool to keep sharing, and because it's always evolving. So if you're just jumping on here, man, I would love for you guys just to share this real quick. It takes 2 seconds just to share this, and then put it in the comments. Let us know you shared it. I am going to read our clarity statement real quick before I introduce our speaker for tonight. Give me 1 second. I don't have my stuff together tonight. Let's see. So many things. How about I just do this? Claire. There it is. All right. So the Hope Shot clarity statement. We here at the Hope Shot are a group of people in recovery spreading inspiration. We come from all different walks of life and pathways to recovery. Our verbiage may be different at times, but we all have one thing in common: recovery as a lifestyle. We support all pathways of recovery. It doesn't matter how you get from A to Z, just get there. Thank you for being a part of our family. So let's get on to Roy. So Roy, I've known, it's crazy because Roy I've known since 5th grade. He always puts his dang picture up, and I'm like, stop putting that picture up, Roy, of 5th grade. And so we went to 5th grade together, and then we met back up, throughout both our addiction, seeing, just passing by each other. He knew the same people I did. When you're in a kind of a small town, you know pretty much anybody, or pass each other, and throughout the times. But I we were both doing real bad, and then he found recovery. What do you got now? How long you got, Roy? 8 years?
Well, 7 coming up on 8, not 8 yet, but 7.
Yeah, no fronts.
No
So,
offense.
and I have 4. So, but when I used to see him, on Facebook, because, like, I mean, that's where we see most of our people and get our inspiration sometimes. I see him on Facebook doing real well, him and James as well. And I was like, man, I want that. I wanted to do it, but I just didn't know how. And I would reach out to him all the time and be like, man, how'd you do it? Or I'd go in and try to do recovery, and then I'd go back, and I'd go in, go back, go in, go back. And I would just be on the phone with him crying because my life is in shambles, and I just don't know what to do. And I don't know how he did it. And I want to, but I can't, and I don't know how. And he would just like, he would help me through all of it. He was my first sponsor. He was my sponsor before I knew what a sponsor was. And he would help me, man. And there's a lot of things, man, that in the beginning that he got me through. I was freaking insane. I was crazy. I was emotional wreck. I was all of it, man. I didn't know how to be a person. And, he helped me, guided me through those first crucial moments in the beginning that I'm super grateful for. So, and I freaking love you, dude. And I'm going to turn it over to you now. So welcome, Roy.
Thank you, Justin. I love you too, man. First, I'm an addict. My name is Roy, and I say that to remind myself. Also, just so I don't forget, man. My story. I've heard so many people share, like, they were born an addict, or they think they were, or for me, I can't really identify as an addict when I was, as far back as I can remember. I do remember when my parents got a divorce, and I moved to Florida when Justin and I were in 5th grade together. And I remember I was kind of shipped off to Florida with my mom and my two brothers and my sister, and we had my mom actually worked for Baycare, and back then it was called the Harbor, and I remember she made like 550 an hour, and there was four kids and her, I believe, in like a one bedroom like studio. Um, so, and they were down here a couple years before my real dad shipped me to Florida, and so when I got here, I didn't feel like I fit in. It wasn't the same family dynamic that it was when I was younger and my mom was in Michigan. So, I do remember feeling like I didn't belong, and that's nobody's fault. That's life. I've learned that now. Being in recovery and learning about, everybody's human. Everybody has a past. Nobody's life is perfect. So, I remember through school, I felt that way. I do remember, when kids would get bullied or people would pick on people. I do remember I always stuck up for people, and I felt like a lot of empathy for people that didn't have much. And even though I didn't have much either, I had empathy for them, and it made me feel bad when people would pick on people because of what they wore or how they talked, or if they didn't shower as much as everybody else, or they didn't smell good. And I um I would sit with those people at school, even though I played sports. I played baseball, so I was kind of a jock. But I do remember that made me feel good. That made for sticking up for people and not being quiet about certain things made me feel good. That's probably about the only thing that made me feel good that lasted longer than a few minutes. Good grades didn't make me feel good. I graduated high school with honors. I also skipped school my senior year, like 90 days, and somehow graduated with honors. I do remember manipulating the teachers to get them to sign off that they made a mistake, that I was actually in class, but I wasn't. Uh, I got a job, well, in high school, my junior year. So all that happened before my senior year. I was playing baseball. I slid into a base and I fractured three vertebrae, broke my back. And the pain that I had from that, I mean, I couldn't feel my left leg, my left arm. I remember it was hard to walk. I couldn't lean to the left. I leaned to the right, and then my right hip was hurting. So physical pain for me is what got me started into the substance part of addiction. And I remember getting prescriptions and my mom telling me not to take more than what was prescribed. And um, I didn't take more than what was prescribed. So, um, but a couple of years later, when I was working at a car dealership, one of the guys that I worked with was like, "Hey, I know you get prescribed this certain medication that you told me. Have you ever tried taking four?" And I was like, "No, I've never tried that, and I really don't even take them anymore." And he was like, "Well, hey, go in my drawer over there and grab four of them, and come back in an hour and tell me how you feel." And I remember that feeling. About 30, 40 minutes later, I walked back to his workbench and I said, um, "Man, I feel amazing. I I have no fear. I have no worry about tomorrow or yesterday. Um, I didn't think about my dad, like my real dad, and how angry I was with him. I didn't think about any of that. I didn't care. Um, Not only that, I felt a false sense of self-esteem that I had never felt before, and I liked it. I remember maybe 30 minutes later, I went into the bathroom and threw up. Um, I was so sick from taking the pills, the medication. I had to go home early from work, so I went home. And I laid in bed. I slept all day, all night. And the next day I went into work, and I hadn't had them prescribed to me in a few months. So I was like, hey, Jay, let me get four more. And, from that point on, it started as like a weekend thing, one day a week, and then weekends. I mean, this went on for 2 or 3 years. This was, from when I was probably about 18, 19 till about 21. Um, but I can tell you, I do remember the day where the physical part of the addiction, the substance, got a hold of me mentally. Like mentally, I couldn't let go. I remember I woke up and I didn't take them every day, and I was dope sick, and I was sweating. I was clammy. I couldn't get out of bed. I had no motivation. And you know what? Looking back, I probably could have said, you know what, it's a cold, or I'm sick, for a flu, whatever it is, or I got a bug. Let me just stay a couple days off work and stay home and not take any more pills, and I'll be okay. But I didn't. I called my buddy and I said, hey man, what's wrong with me? Something's going on. Something's not right. And I don't like this. And his answer to me was, um, I asked him, I said, should I just stop, man? If this is what it's like, should I just stop? And he said, no. He's like, just make sure you never run out again. And that was my solution. Instead of, this is doing something harmful to my body, let me just make sure I never run out again. And at that time, I was making like 60, $70,000 a year at 20 years old, 19, 20. So, and I had the means at that time. I had a house, uh, a new truck, or newish, and I remember buying as many pills as I could. And at that time, I started going back to the doctor. Within a few months, I was in what do they call it? Pain management. It's been so long since I've been there. I forget the terms, but I started going to pain management, and my prescriptions didn't last. I was buying them on the street. Um, I remember my mom and my sister in 2003. They showed up at my house, and I thought nobody knew what was going on. Like I was hiding it pretty well. In the beginning, I probably was because I wasn't around anybody. All my bills were paid, and on the outside, I think it was okay. And but my mom, and my sister showed up, and they're like, "Hey, um, you either." Because it was my mom's house, and she gave it to me, and she was like, either you go to rehab or get out of the house now. And I remember for a split second thinking to myself, maybe I should stop. I was so full of fear, though. I didn't want. I was the physical addiction, mental had already taken over. So my first thought, that wasn't my first thought. Like my first thought was, f you, don't tell me how to live my life. And my second thought was, maybe I should ask for help. Maybe she's right. You know, um, but I had no idea where it would lead me. Like no idea. I like to think if I knew how it would have ended, I would have stopped like that day. So, it wasn't long after. I mean, I got an apartment right after that, and then I couldn't afford the bills there, so I rented a room from somebody. And then after that, I got arrested. In 2004, I was arrested on four charges of doctor prescription fraud, doctor shopping, like you name it. They had a sting set up at a doctor's office in Pinellas County. The DEA did, and man, that was the scariest at that point. That was the scariest day of my life. I remember the people I was with. There was guns in my car that I didn't know. They were underneath my seat. They were sitting in the back seat. They were well prepared for that lifestyle, and I wasn't. And I remember crying in the back of the cop car, and I remember the cop actually felt bad for me. And that was the last time that any police officer actually felt bad for me. He, they handed me off to Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and I got 5 years probation. So I never had a speeding ticket, never got in trouble before in my life, and I got 5 years probation. And I used I would say when I got out of jail, I didn't use right away, but I didn't change anything. I went right back to hanging out with the same people. I didn't think I had a problem, and I didn't want help. My ego said that I got this under control. And to tell you the truth, man, everybody in my life told me I got this under control too, because they had no idea what was going on, what was really going on, like inside. My mom, everybody was like, just stop. Um, at that point, it wasn't that simple. Like I was good at stopping, and I heard this phrase in recovery all the time. I was real good at stopping. I'm no good at staying stopped, and that was me. But so I continued to use the whole 5 years of probation. I faked drug test. I went to a drug counseling class, and I faked every drug test. It was a saliva test. I'm not going to say how I faked it, but I figured out a way that I could pass these tests without putting my saliva on the stick. And, I knew it was wrong. Like, I remember sitting there so scared that I was going to get caught. Um, but I continued to do it. So I got off probation, and right after that, I mean, then by that point, I was couch surfing, sleeping on people's floors. I still continued to go to the doctor. My story is just full of prescriptions, pain medication. Um, I was prescribed Oxycontin. That was pain medication was my thing. Like if I didn't have pain medication, opiates, um, I wouldn't switch to something else in order to get by. Like I tried, it just didn't work. It didn't do the same thing for me. Um, so I did everything possible to make sure. I mean, at one point I was going to 10 to 15 doctors a month, and the unmanageability and just the insanity. Like I had no money. Like how am I going to pay for these $1,000? I mean, at one point one prescription was $1,800, and man, the only way for somebody to get that type of medication with that type of money is to make a lot of money every month, $1,800, or have somebody else that sells drugs pay for it. And that's what I did. And I started selling drugs, and I mean, I was what do people say? I was my best customer, and I was like I remember. Oh man, everything that I swore that was going to happen never happened. Not one time. I, you know, my I used a lot for a few years with. I call him my brother. His name's Nick, and he was the first person that I met when I moved to Florida, and actually talked to me, and his dad too, and his mom, his family. They're awesome. So I used with him, and the insanity and that too, and bringing his family into it um, caused a lot of damage. I remember in 2008, I think it was 2008 or 2009, he overdosed and died. And I don't think I felt anything my entire addiction, like actually felt it. That I felt instantly. I wanted to kill myself, and that was scary because I'd always had the will to live, and during my addiction, just numb things and try to forget about it. And I was good at it. The drugs were good for that. And I remember I went into a Walgreens bathroom and I got my prescription uh, 3 days after he passed. And I remember his mom told me she didn't want me at his funeral. And man, that I just wanted to die. So I tried. Like I know my mom would remember this, my sister too. I went into Walgreens bathroom and took more drugs than I had ever taken, probably 10 days worth at the same time, and planned on not waking up. And I don't remember anything after that. I remember when I woke up, I remember I was at my mom's house. I started in a Walgreens bathroom. Don't know how I got to my mom's. It was Christmas Eve. Um, and the first thing I said to my mom is, "Where are my pills?" And she gave them to me and said, "If you take these, I don't ever want to speak to you again." And this is 2009. I continued to use till 2014. So um, she told me that my sister held a piece of paper above my face for hours just to see if I was breathing. And honestly, I wanted to cry when she told me that, that day. But man, it had a hold of me that it was like against my own will. Like I knew what was right, I knew what was wrong, um, but I had always planned on stopping, and that continued. I got arrested a few more times. Man, I was homeless in between probations. I was on probation for I think 10 years. I had three separate probation stints, that 5 years, 3 years, and 2 years. And out of about 13 years of using. So I wasn't a good criminal. I got caught with everything. Like if my license got suspended that morning, by noon I was getting pulled over by Pasco County Sheriff's Office. I'm not, no joke. Like I was not good at all. I remember one time I was riding a bicycle down the road, okay, and I missed court literally like 30 days before that, and I never rode a bicycle. And I rode a bicycle, and a cop pulled me over on a bicycle and was like, "Let me see your ID." I mean, I know I had to look like a criminal. So, and of course I had a warrant. So he took me to jail. A lot of my using, like my mom, oh man, my mom, mom, I love you. And like, you're the greatest human being that I know. Um, and I know that's where I get my heart from, is my mom, because I put her through hell, like literally hell. Like my mom, she used to Western Union me money, and I lived like 10 minutes from her. She could not look at me without crying or wanting to kill me. And now I understand why. I um I got arrested a few more times on possession charges, and I remember going to a treatment. I was in, I think it was Operation PAR. There was this counselor. His name was RJ. It was at Ridge and Congress. Yeah, it was PAR. And I remember like what he would tell me, and we would talk about, and I would fake, during the counseling every week. And he was a good guy. I remember the things that he used to tell me, man, and I wanted to get clean so bad. Like all the times get arrested, stealing from my family. So I worked for my parents here in Florida, for Mr. Poole. And I know my mom, my dad did it because my mom was always like, and she was always like, "Well, just have a drink every once in a while." Or, and she's going to be mad at me if I say this, but I'm going to say it. She said, just smoke a joint. Like, why can't you be normal and just have a drink? Or, you know, um, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try that, mom. And I remember working for them, and within like a week, I would have a bottle of Captain Morgan hidden in the house somewhere so that I could have 3 or 4 drinks before I went to work. Um, so I wasn't good at having one. I remember with a couple months later, I stole like 30, I don't know the exact number, 30 to probably $50,000 from my parents. And um, I remember my mom caught me, and I was so embarrassed that, she was like, "You can't come back to work. I never want to speak to you again." And within a few weeks, I was near my bottom, and that was in 2014. Everybody in my family had cut me off, and not cut me off, man. They did the only thing that they knew to do to keep sanity and peace in their life. My mom told me that she used to go to bed at night. Every time the phone would ring, she would think that it's the cops or the hospital saying that I was dead, for years. So I um, I remember my last use, and I remember I didn't want to live anymore. I had nobody to give me gas money, nobody to buy me food, nobody to pay my rent. Nobody would let me live with them. Um, One of the people that I lived with for a long time, Justin, knows them. Man, I slept on their couch or their floor on and off for like 7 or 8 years. Um, and I really didn't want to live like that anymore. I either wanted to get clean or stop using or die, one or the other. I didn't want to try, to, I was just done. And I remember I used one more time, and that was the first time that I ever overdosed. And when I woke up, I was being resuscitated by Pasco County Fire Rescue. And I don't remember much. I do remember in jail about 3 days later that I was grateful to be alive. Um, and I had no idea what I was going to do because I've been in jail before. I've gotten out before. I've been on probation before. I tried drinking. I tried just smoking weed. I tried just doing one. I tried just being abstinent. Nothing worked. And um, I remember when I was in jail, James, um, he was in jail with me, and he had no recovery either. And but he had went to a recovery meeting in the jail and said that that's what he was going to try when he got out. So I was like, I'm going to give it a try too. Like that was it. There's no like, yeah, there's no special story about it. He just said he was going to try it. Call me when you get out. If I'm still clean, I'll help you. If not, then we'll get high. That's not what he said, but that's what I took from it. And when I got out of jail a couple months later, he was clean. And I knew James, so I knew if he could do it, I could. And that was the first piece of hope that I had in probably about 13 years. So, I was willing, I was ready. I admitted that I needed help. I went to counseling. This awesome counselor, Rachel, and from West Care, like took care of me, took me under her wing. And like I remember when I was talking to her and I had one-on-one sessions on Thursdays for an hour, I didn't hold back. Like I remember everything that bothered me, I told her. I remember telling her that I thought about using. I remember that I told her I thought about going back to the doctor. And she sat there with me because I was willing to be honest, and I had no idea where that was coming from. Like I had no idea. I had no desire to tell people these things for a long time, and I didn't think anybody cared. And to be honest with you, I had no idea that my life could get better. Like my credit was shot. I had vehicle repos. My family didn't trust me. I didn't think they'd ever trust me again. So what's the point? And I lied to myself for a long time, and it works. But I was willing to do it. So she helped me. I started going to meetings. I got in recovery. I did the whole 90 and 90 and probably more than that. Every day I went to a meeting, mostly a lot of days I went to two. And I just started to begin to experience life without drugs. And man, what a journey it is to feel every single emotion and man, to begin to love people, to begin to love yourself again, uh, to care about people, to be let down, to let others down clean and have to deal with that and not run from it. It's not easy. So like if anybody's watching this, um, whether you're struggling right now, you're not clean, you're trying to get clean, or you've relapsed, or even if you are clean, um, there comes a point where, like, I've been there to where I feel like just one more minute and things are just going to get so much worse. And every time that I've held on in the last almost 8 years, 7.5, 8 years, um, it doesn't get worse. It actually gets better. And I never knew that. I thought it would always get worse. So, I got a sponsor, like Justin was saying, I sponsored him. I got a sponsor. I started, doing step work. And also, too, there's not only, there's more than one path to recovery. I wanted to say that too. If anybody's watching and doesn't identify with like the 12 steps or what I do to stay clean, that's okay. The whole point of me being on here and me helping others is just to plant that seed, to let them know that it's possible to get clean and stay clean. But how I did it is, I got honest with myself, you know, and then I began to be honest with others. And I got it. My parents gave me. Oh man, I worked in a warehouse when I first got clean because my parents were like, "You're never working here again." My parents installed like locks on everything and like did not hold money in the office anymore because of me. Like there was never an employee they stole from them until their son. And I worked for Amazon packing company where everybody used. I'm not lying, like everybody used in the bathroom. And it wasn't easy. I'd call my sponsor, my support group, and tell them about it. And they'd say, welcome to life. But you don't have to, Roy. You don't have to. And they said, pray for them and have empathy for them. And they're miserable. Remember how miserable you were? And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. And that's where I began to have empathy. And, fast forward a little bit, I got into a relationship and with somebody in recovery. Um, it went well for a while, probably, 6 months or so. And, I had my own place. And in the process of life being clean, like I own my own house, like nobody else lives here. I don't rent out other rooms, not anymore anyway. Um, and I live alone. Uh, I have vehicles, I have a career. My parents hired me back, gave me my job back. Um, Not only that, they gave me the responsibility of like having the keys to the place. Um, so many people depend on me today. I, Geez, what else? I have the keys to my sister's house. I stole from her house so many times. I'm there for my family members. I'm present, as much as I can. Since I got clean, I got real busy. I had no idea there were this many hours in the day. And, throughout being my recovery, that relationship I was talking about took a lot, you know, like her picture is up, at the beginning of this when we started, and Justin asked me about, what picture I wanted up there, and you got all three, bro. Thank you. I asked him to please put a picture of me and Chanel. You know, Chanel, that was her name. She, man, it was after about 6 months clean, she relapsed, and there was that point where I was like, okay, do I stop talking to her? You know, my recovery is important. And, you know, also there was a part of me that played the victim. Like, how dare she? Like, she knows I'm in recovery, you know, and she was too. So, um, you know, and I chose to stay with her, and I couldn't stop loving her. There was no way. They say you can't choose who you love, and that's true, you know. And, you know, her story is one, you know, filled with relapse, and my story isn't, and that's okay. And I loved her anyway. She taught me a lot. I mean, shoot, there was she taught me about compassion, unconditional love, forgiveness. Man, to be on the other side of things through somebody else's act of addiction, it really gives you a perspective, the other side of it. You know, like my family went through, and anybody else that watched somebody practically kill themselves. You know, I watched it, and you know, she had almost 2 years. She'd get 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 7 months, 2 weeks, a week, and yeah, that willingness, like that I had to. I don't know. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what happened or what was going on in her mind. I don't want to begin to, but I will tell you before I tell you what happened with that relationship. I real quick some really awesome things that I've done since I got clean as well. So this shirt that I'm wearing, I started a recovery softball team. Um, Man, that's awesome. I started a team, and like all addicts, and then one of my sponsees started his own team, and to watch, and then like they had no bats, no gloves, you know, to give them bats and stuff that I had, like freely give it away to them. I didn't sell it to them, or, you know, tell them, make sure you pay me back. Like the gifts that I got from watching his team and the smiles on everybody's faces, and my team too. And, you know, fast forward that softball, you know, once a year we go to Vieira and we play in the Clean and Sober Softball World Series every year. I mean, where there's thousands of people in recovery, all different types of fellowships, you know, 12-step fellowships out there. Um, the atmosphere there, you know, imagine, you know, it's like a convention. Um, but, you know, I got that, you know, also when I talked about roommates, I learned that not to have roommates, especially, um, I don't know, man. I just learned it's better for me. I One of my friends that I let stay here, he's actually in a rehab right now. I came home one night, I was on my way to Clearwater, and something told me to just stop by the house. I stopped by the house and my bathroom light was on. So I went in the house and he wasn't answering the door. And I ended up kicking my door open, that door right behind me. And I found him slumped in the corner and he wasn't breathing. And man, that what kicked into action right away, it wasn't me. Like it was my higher power. You know, 99% of the things that I've done since I got clean has been my higher power. I I remember I revived him in the bathroom. I had 911 on, you know, on my phone. The phone was sitting on the toilet, and hearing him breathe for the first time, um, man, it was like I was breathing for the first time. I can't really describe it. At that point, I realized I didn't want roommates anymore, though. You know, geez, what else? There's so much to try to fit in this time span. So many good things. Oh, okay. So we talked about earlier, Justin, about like things that we've gone through clean. I'm going to get back to Chanel here in like 2 minutes, but I've had two surgeries since I got clean. Um, that was one of my fears was, if I'm in a car accident or, something happens to me because, pain for me, and my back still hurts and my hip. Um, so I was like, what am I going to do? What if this happens? What if that happens? And it happened 3 years ago, almost it actually was on my birthday. Um, I T-boned somebody at 55 miles an hour and totaled my car and was in some of like the worst pain that I've ever been in. And I denied narcotics. I told them like I'm allergic. The whole I'll break out in handcuffs. Like you guys don't understand. They didn't want to listen, but finally they did listen. They respected the fact that I didn't want narcotics. Another one was playing softball. Somebody ran in my arm. I tagged him, and this hand, I shattered my hand off. There's a scar right there on my hand. I had my fifth metacarpal reconstructed. I have pins and screws in my hand, and I went through the surgery with no narcotics. That's my experience. A lot of people were upset at me because they're like, you don't have to live like that. I'm like, listen, it's not that I don't think that I could give my mom my prescription or my sponsor or one of my best friends and take it how it's prescribed. It's when they're gone, I'm gonna want more. I already know it. And I don't want that feeling. I haven't had that feeling in almost 8 years. And I really don't want it ever again, like, just for today. So, I went through that surgery. I actually did have another surgery. I had staph infection, um, shaving, and then staph infection or MRSA, whatever they call it, lives in your nose. And it got in the cut, from either blowing my nose or whatever. And I got staph infection, and I went through that. That was, whew, you want to talk about pain? That was a lot of pain. I went through that awake and um, on a certain part of my body. I'm not going to say, but it was not fun. And no narcotics, no pain medication. So to be able to go through those things, you know, emotional pain, physical pain, and not have to use, that's for me, that's the whole goal of recovery. Um, and I sponsor guys like Justin said. I sponsor Justin. Um, I want to share something real quick too, and then I'll get to Chanel. I remember you, Justin. I'm so proud of you, bro. Like, I was thinking about this today. How proud of you I am. I remember sitting on this couch right over here, probably a couple of years ago, and we were doing step work, and I think it was step 3, maybe it was step 4. Um, and I remember you telling me that you had zero empathy for people, and you could not relate to where people were at or care. Um, Not that you didn't want to. Like, I remember you trying, but you just could not. You told me I cannot put myself in other people's shoes. Um, you, I think you thought something was wrong with you, but it wasn't. And for you to care so much about people and your community and your family today, um, you're a role model for me too, bro. And I'm proud of you. I so fast forward 6.5, 7 years of relationship with Chanel, and looking back, there weren't many breaks between her and I. I mean, I tried everything, um, and I told myself as long as I'm not giving her money and support her addiction, But I this year, February 25th, I got a call from her brother that she had overdosed and passed away. And Like, these are, oof, man, I told myself I wasn't going to cry. Like, I'm so grateful. Like, the amount of gratitude that I have for recovery and my friends, my family, uh, I can't describe. Man, nobody left me alone. I'll tell you that. When I heard that she had passed, her brother told me. I hadn't heard from her in like 24 hours. And I wasn't alone for probably a month. Nobody left me alone. So I know this. I didn't feel like getting high. I knew that wasn't a solution. I didn't have one thought. You know, I will say this. I did have thoughts of harming myself. A couple. I was driving down the road one day, and I thought about killing myself. Um, I talked about it. I told somebody. I remember I told somebody, and they thought the way they reacted. Um, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have told them. And so if anybody out there feels like harming themselves, or somebody has a family member struggling, and somebody says to you that they thought about killing themselves, try to understand where they're at and where they're coming from, because but I wasn't going to make that excuse, to blame the person how they reacted, or because they kind of told me what, no way, stop joking. And I loved Chanel like more than I probably loved myself for a long time. So learning to love myself again, set boundaries. She taught me that. She taught me so much, and a lot of this comes from my mom, the way I was raised. Um, I'm grateful for that, because I had a set of like morals and like a character that my dad and my mom tried to instill in me when I was younger. So that helped out a lot. But today, a couple months later, I'm happy. Probably 95% of my days, I'm happy. I'm smiling. I'm grateful. That's one thing that I've learned. I get to do these things. Gratitude and my attitude is a choice. And, and I've also learned it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to cry. Like my sponsor, Mike, he was on here with you guys. You had him on here. He, he taught me one thing is to never be ashamed of how you feel, or afraid to tell somebody how you feel, that it's okay. And just when you're ready to let it go, or it becomes unhealthy, to let it go. So, yeah. And I mean, that's probably about it.
All right. Hey, thanks, Roy. Yeah, man. I remember talking to you about that. And I knew there was a lot of things that were, well, I thought there was a lot of things wrong with me. And there was nothing wrong with me. I just needed to undo some certain things in order for the real, person to shine out. Um,
Yeah.
That's what's cool about recovery, man. It's like the people show up for you, man. People actually care about you. People want to see you succeed. They actually want to be there for you when you're going through some shit, especially when you're going through what you went through. I was there for the whole Chanel and you, and it did, there's a lot of times I wanted to choke you, you know what I mean? Literally, I wanted to choke you. I'm like, I'm gonna choke this dude, because um you know, listen, man, like it's like it became your drug sometimes, you know what I mean? But you overcame that, I seen you grow through that, and grow to where it wasn't your drug after a while, but there in the beginning it was, and you know, the things we do for love, man, we don't know what it's going to be like, or when somebody relapses, what that's going to be like, or how you're going to act, or what you're going to do. And And you know, you stayed strong through this whole thing, you know, with Chanel passing, because it only happened a couple months ago, you know.
Yeah.
You've done well in holding yourself up, man, and you know, being strong, man. You know, most of us, man, we don't know how it's gonna be if something like that happens, you know, and this the way things are going these days, man. Just like I even my worker, man, his nephew just passed away last night. You know what I mean? Out here, you know, and it sucks, man, but relapse could be a death sentence, you know? And
Yeah.
that's the freaking truth right now in this day and age. What they're freaking putting out there, and you could even be taking a Xanax, you know, and just, you know, something that you never thought in your life would kill you. And here you are, you know, and it happens every single day, you know. It's crazy. So, um, what you know, I would say, you give a lot of courage to people that might be going through the same thing you're going through, having a loved one pass away, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that's what these stories are about, man. Giving hope, you know, on both ends. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on here. See, we have some comments, man. I'm gonna read them off real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Let's see. We have Nikki says, "Hello. When I got my first white key tag from my first meeting, I was like, great. Once I'm trusted with keys to anything, this will go right on it." And that's what, dude. They really say it too. It's like you don't even need keys.
Yeah, no, that's true, man.
We have Patsy says, yes, it does give you a whole other perspective to watch ones we love suffer and struggle with the same demons I've fought. Is hard on a whole nother level. Talk about powerlessness.
Yeah. Hi, Patsy.
We got Joseph says, thank you, Roy, for sharing your story. Great message. Let's see. We have Facebook user. I put in the group, so we're gonna find. You can go and find out who this is. But when you put into a group that's private, it shows Facebook user. Unless they turn it off, there's a thing you have to click and actually sign whatever. I don't know what it is, but I'm happy for you, bro. I'm sorry for your loss. Stay strong.
Thank
Um,
you.
we got Tiffany says, thank you, Roy, for sharing your story.
Hi,
Um,
Tiffany.
we got Helen says, thank you. Your story has truly touched me. Um, we got Steve said, great experience shared. Um, Scott says it's so scary, Justin. There really is so scary. It really is, man. It's insane out there. Thank you, Roy. You're an amazing human. I'm so glad to know you. And then Nikki says, thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope. So that's it, man. Again, thank you, Roy, for being on here, getting vulnerable.
Yeah. It was different than last time, bro. And thank you, man. I appreciate. I don't know. After almost 8 years, I still get nervous every time, man. It's like I've been given so much, Justin. Like I've been given so much. Like it's so hard to try to choose on what you want to give back to somebody, or um, what'll reach somebody. And like that's a good thing. I get to worry about what I'm going to share to for other people and share them about my recovery and all the good things in my life, because I know I didn't share, it's half and half or whatever it was, but I could share for a month on all the good things. So thank you, man.
Yeah, it's hard to put all kinds of time into an hour, but you know, you hit on the right stuff, and that's why I said it's ever changing our stories. You know what I mean? We're ever evolving, so that's a good thing about continuously sharing and continuing to put it out there, because it will evolve. And then, shit, man, you give yourself your own self perspective sometimes by sharing. You know, things that you didn't know was in the memory bank. You know what I mean?
That's the truth.
It's the truth, man. But yeah, man, it's super cool to have you on here again, especially with Roy. Was one of the first ones that we had on here. back when we were doing YouTube and recordings and stuff, and before live videos. We've evolved, baby.
You have arrived.
That's right, baby. I'm alive. But thank you all for being here. Thank you guys for commenting and sharing this moment with us, with Roy, and for hearing his story. We appreciate you guys. And if you guys would share this, you know, if you guys are in the group and you would like to share this, you can go on to the Hope Shot main page and you can share it from there. The last hit, hell yeah.
James thought of that name.
That's
for
a great
you,
one, man. But please share this live, because you never know who might need to hear this. You know, somebody out there needs to hear Roy's story, and we just need to find them. So we appreciate you guys, and come join us this Sunday as we do our Sunday night lives. You know, we're going to change it up every week and make it new and interesting. So thank you all for being here. We love you guys, and good night. Good night, Roy.